Okay, I'd like to welcome everybody to the May Watertown School District School Board meeting, and I'll call the meeting to order, and we'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. All right, first under the consent agenda, 2.1, roll call. Please note all board members are present this evening. Item 2.2, are there any conflicts of interest that board members need to disclose this evening on agenda items? All right, if not, we need a review and approval of the agenda. Could we have a motion, please?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Stein. Second by Mr. Iverson to approve the agenda. Any comments or questions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 2.4, we need to approve the minutes of the April 11, April 19, and April 25, 2022 board meetings. Could we have a motion for those?
Madam President, I move approval of the minutes of April 11th, 19th, and 25th of 2022.
Motion by Ms. Moulton
Second.
and a second by Mrs. Lohr. Any comments on the approval of the minutes? Hearing none, all in favor of approval say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, we will receive the financial reports for April 2022.
Thank you. In the General and Special Education Fund, the revenue was moderate, consisting of taxes along with the regular state aid payments. The financials in May will reflect an increase to taxes as property taxes payable in 2022 are noted to be received. Federal revenue in the amount of $270,414 is in support of IDEA special education cost, and that was also received. In the Capital Outlay Fund, the revenue consisted of the typical tax proceeds along with interest income. Federal revenue in the amount of $239,643 was received in support of ESSER 2 HVAC boiler upgrades. The cash balance of $8.2 million includes approximately $2.5 million in unexpended capital outlay certificates in support of the high school renovation project. In the Fund of Lake Area Tech, the revenue during the month was relatively moderate and consisted of several different sources. The expenditure significantly exceeded the revenue for April as typical. Other activity for LATC was had in financial aid, accommodating financial aid activity of students, LATC food service and Educare both seeing revenue exceed expenditures for the month. In the bookstore, the expenditure significantly exceeded the revenue with the replenishment of inventory. In the K-12 enterprise funds of K-12 nutrition, federal revenue received in this fund was significant, with the revenue being associated with the operation of providing free meals to families. Arena concession saw a decrease in activity with the end of events. Note that in driver's education, tuition for the summer program has begun collection and accounts for the increased cash balance over the previous year. The program costs will take place in May and June. In the Employee Benefit Trust, the premium and administration costs during the month of April were slightly exceeded by the claims. The ending cash balance in this fund remains at a healthy level to support future liabilities. I'd be happy to answer any questions should you have any.
Thank you, Heidi. Next, we'll move on to 2.6 and student and staff recognitions for this month.
Yes, I'm happy to announce that we are going to recognize our retirees this month. We are hosting a retirement celebration on Wednesday, May 18th from 3:45 to 5 p.m. in the high school lunchroom. This would be more of an open house format this year, and the public is invited to come celebrate with our retiring staff members. Those staff members are Daryl Stacy in the district office, at Jefferson Elementary, Carrie Fries, Sharice Jensen, and Tamara Schmidt. At Garfield Elementary, Karen Baumgarn. At Lincoln, and actually our lead nurse for the district, Kayla Moling. At McKinley Elementary, Ann DeSpiegler. At Roosevelt Elementary, Judy Curley and Jean Doyen. At McKinley Elementary, Cindy Schoenfeld and Nancy Popowski. At Millette Elementary, Karen Johnson. At Watertown High School, Brad Bransrud, Christensen, Dawn Flory, Bob Hirsch, Kathy Johnson, Jency Kellogg Andrus, Calvin Hilsland, Rhonda Kruger, Rusty Nelson, Wendy Olson, and Jackie Stacy. And at Watertown Middle School, Buffy Hesh, Chris Jacobson, and Lynn Tesh. Again, that retirement celebration is on Wednesday, May 18th from 3:45 to 5 p.m. in the Watertown High School lunchroom, and the public is invited to come celebrate with our retirees this year.
I think we should give them a hand. Okay, the next thing on the agenda is the discussion items for Lake Area Tech. And first of all, item 3.1, is there anyone here for public input on agenda or non-agenda items for Lake Area this evening? Okay, if not, we'll move to 3.2 and the Lake Area Tech College update about the 22 graduation and awards.
Yes, ma'am. Our graduation will be this Friday at 4 p.m. in the arena. We'll have, this will be our 57th anniversary of the school, therefore our 55th graduation ceremony. We'll have 12 retirees this year that we'll recognize, and our keynote this year will be the first gentleman, Brian Noem. Next slide. We'll have 722 graduates. 147 of them come from 2 foreign countries and 9 other states. The bulk of our students, of course, come from 56 counties here in South Dakota and 156 communities across South Dakota. We have slightly more males than females, which is atypical for most community colleges. And you can see our diversity of our students, which continues to improve as we move down the path. 9.4% of our graduates will be veterans or their spouses and children of veterans. 44% are Pell eligible or low-income students, and 76% received some type of federal financial aid, and another 54%, well, some of those are in the 54% that also receive scholarships. And 15% of those are Build Dakota scholarships, which means we had at least 15% of our students that were on full ride scholarships this year at Lake Area Tech. Their class worked significantly while they were more so than previous years. In fact, 76% were employed, 40% more than 20 hours per week, and that's a significant increase. Slight update to the slide. When I wrote the slide this morning, we almost had 100,000 hours of community service. But with only three programs that need to report, we're over 100,000 hours of community service again this year for our students. So they've done an exceptional job. And as far as investing in the future, our foundation does a great job. They gave out over 1,000 individual scholarships for more than $1.4 million. Then another $1.4 million that went out in those Build Dakota scholarships, with over $900,000 industry matches in the Stretch the Million program. So our foundation gave out over $3.7 million in scholarships that the community invested in our students this year. Next slide. Big changes that are coming up. We'll start a surgical technician program that will start in the fall, this coming fall. Drones, of course, are the big buzz. We're the one of only 17 entities in the United States that's authorized by the FAA to award recreational drone licenses. And so that's become a big buzz. When we've started up a drone racing program and team at the collegiate level, as well as some other collegiate gaming sports, esports. And then, of course, our electronic vehicles program will start up next year. Will be the first in the state and early in the nation program. Truck driving is becoming really big with the new regulations, and of course, we have new buildings underway, which we'll talk a little bit more about later tonight. So with that, I'd hold for any questions that you have for me.
Okay, thank you,
Thank you.
President Cardy. Next, we'll move on to the action items for Lake Area Tech then, and first of all, personnel, 4.1.1, we have the resignations.
Yes, ma'am. You have 4 resignations in front of you. We'd recommend that you approve those as presented.
Okay, can we have a motion, please?
I will make a motion to approve resignations.
Motion by Mrs. Lohr,
Second.
second by Mr. Stein. Any comments or questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 4.1.2, the contract recommendations and addendums.
Yes, ma'am. The contract recommendations and addendum are fairly typical for this time of year, particularly as we turn over staff. One note would be the hire of the state coordinator, the state director for the South Dakota's career and tech student organizations. And so we'd recommend your acceptance of the contract recommendations and addendums.
All right, can we have a motion, please?
Move approval of the contract recommendations and addendums as presented.
Motion by Mr. Stein,
Second.
second by Mrs. Lohr. Comments or questions on those? Hearing none, all in favor of approval, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And 4.1.3, the stipend requests.
Yes, ma'am. The 4 stipend requests in front of you represent faculty and staff members that are improving their education through seeking higher degrees or further degrees. And we recommend your acceptance of the 4 stipends requests as presented.
I will make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Lohr and a second by Mr. Stein to approve the stipend requests. Any comments or questions on those? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Now we'll move to the property items, and first of all, 4.2.1, consider the Archway Complex bid.
Yes, ma'am. The Lake Area Technical College, with support of the Leadership Committee, recommends the school board accept Gray Construction's bid. Their base bid was $19,380,000, and then we also recommend accepting both alternates for a total bid or total award of $20,600,000. Gray Construction was the sole bidder. The cost breakouts by the building is that the Archway building is just over $12.4 million, and that's including both alternates. The Advanced Manufacturing Lab was approximately $6.4 million, and the renovations run about $1.7 million. The estimated cost, when we include all the fees and contingencies, is a total of $22,993,025. This project is funded by the I'm In capital campaign, private donations, and then $7.5 million allocation from the legislature. We recommend your acceptance of Gray Construction's bid.
I move acceptance of the Archway Complex bid as presented.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Moulton and a second by Mr. Iverson to accept the Archway Complex bid. Any comments or questions on that item?
What a superb addition this will be to not only the Watertown area, but to Lake area and the entire state as far as employment and other opportunities. I really want to congratulate you, the governor, the state legislature, the contributors to the private donations, Premier Bank, and the others that really worked hard to get this accomplished.
Yes, ma'am, thank you. This will bring another 250 students to Lake Area Tech on campus, as well as support all the programs because of the general education is going to be located in this building also. So looking forward to the advances in advanced manufacturing as well that will be provided to the lab. So I appreciate your comments. Thank you.
Okay, so we have the motion and the second to approve the Archway Complex bid. All in favor of approval, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 4.2.2, consider the Sourcewell Cooperative Rooftop Unit bid.
Yes, ma'am. Lake Area Technical College requests the authority to purchase a rooftop unit for the east side of the Garfield Education Center, which will be the future site of our EduCare. The total amount for this unit is $212,736. The proposal is compliant with the Sourcewell bid contract, in which the district is a member, and the pricing meets the requirements established by that contract. The equipment will require a budget amendment out of the fiscal 2022, and it will be accommodated by Lake Area Tech's building funds. And we request your approval to award that bid.
I move that we accept the Sourcewell rooftop unit bid.
Motion by Mr. Iverson and a second by Ms. Moulton. Any comments or questions on that bid? Hearing none, all in favor of approval, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, President Courtney.
Thank you, ma'am.
All right, next we're going to move on to discussion items for the K-12 side. First of all, is there any public input on agenda or non-agenda items for the district this evening? Okay, and I know we might have a few this evening, so if you could keep your comments limited to about 3 minutes would be nice. And please identify who you are, and thanks.
My name is Kim Nichols. I have a son who is a junior, will be a senior next year. I'm here to ask the board to delay in approving the phase 1 of the track remodel. We still don't have any definite place for wrestling and gymnastics. We are willing to talk about problem solving. We have some great ideas that are coming to fruition. We've talked to the city about Belmont Park and being able to build something there. 2 mats, as was indicated in the drawing at the planning meeting for the field house, is not enough for our program. We need a minimum of 3 mats for safety's sake. We need to build and have space for growth. Our program is growing. It is not going anywhere. Our youth numbers are strong. We're building a great program for the high school, and we have girls wrestling coming out too. Girls is taking off like crazy in the state and across the country. We have colleges that are now offering the sport of wrestling, so we have girls that are interested. They want to go on and compete at that collegiate level. And we have asked many, many times to be considered in remodels. And I believe that gymnastics and wrestling both feel like they're being pushed to the side again. Our kids deserve better, and they have continued to work in difficult situations, such as going out to a shed at Walmart, and they've persevered. But they've persevered because of and in spite of. Think of what they could do if they had the facilities that were right for their program.
Thank you, Mrs. Nichols. All right, if there's no other public input this evening, we'll move on to item 5.2 and the Northeast Tech High School report.
Thank you. The superintendents did meet this month, last Tuesday, and then we had a successful 50th anniversary celebration over at Northeast Tech High School on Saturday, the 7th. I think we had 15 former staff members come back and be recognized. That was great, and the Secretary of Education was there, said a few words, addressed the group, and that went really well. And then a reminder to those board members that we meet on Wednesday, the 18th at 5:45.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Danielson. Next, we have item 5.3, training rules.
Good evening. Craig Boyens, Activities Director. I'm joined by Patty McClemens, who is our Assistant Principal, future Principal. So thank you for helping me out here, Patty. I'm here tonight to visit about the standards for participation. The first page, this is policy JJIC, and the first page in front of you is just a statement of expectations in regards to our activities. The second, and I won't read all that because I believe you have it in front of you. The second, which plays out what our consequences are. So for athletics, the top one, penalty for violation of rules, out of season violation. The first one, the athlete misses one inter-school competition at the start of the next sport. Second violation, they are eliminated. If they are in season, so if track is going on and I get a violation, I am eliminated from track regardless of where we are in the season. Fine arts, this portion of the policy, it defines it as such that they are not limited to band, debate, drama, oral interp, orchestra, vocal music, and journalism. Out of season for fine arts, they miss one contest or 2 weeks, whichever is less. And then the second one, they are eliminated for the next activity they participate in. Now, we do get into some gray area with this policy because there is grades that are involved with some of these fine arts. Now, I will give props out to fine arts students. We have not had this arise within this policy where we've had a violation. The last one shows year 1920, 2021, 21, 22. For athletics, we've had 1 in season, 5 out of season. 2020, 2021, 4 in season, 6 out of season. 2021, 2022 is 5 in season, 4 out of season. And then if you look down below, you will see Student Council and National Honor Society for our violations. I don't know if Patty wants to add anything to that. I did include in your packet what the other ESD schools are doing. I assume that would maybe be a question. And with that, I'll leave it for any questions you guys might have.
I will say in regards to the student council, that's probably one of our longer seasons because it starts in August and doesn't end until school's out. So, that might be an area to look at.
Craig, can I put you on the spot?
He loves that.
Yes. Yeah.
Good answer. just giving you a hard time. This has been a topic that has been talked about over the course of time, and is it something that needs to evolve? Is it something that works, that's effective?
It's
Curious
sorry.
Just curious for your take on it. And
the advantage of this policy is that it's clear. There's no there's no gray. It's black and white. And what you will hear is everybody understands it. They know it. If you make a mistake during the season, they know you're done. Disadvantage, and everybody thinks it's a really great policy until they're the one, me, who's looking that kid in the face during the season and have to give them the consequence. If somebody wouldn't have gave me a second chance somewhere along the way, who knows where I would be. And so if you're looking for my opinion, yes, we need to hold kids accountable, but going from the extreme, eliminating them completely from an activity in season and only missing one activity out of season, that's a big gap, if that makes sense to you guys.
And I think a component we could be missing is the education piece with that. Just educating our students of the effects of drinking and, learning from their mistakes. So that potentially could be something to talk about and where we want kids to be. And I will say if they're involved in athletics and they keep them involved, they'll stay out of trouble. For the most part, they'll stay out of trouble.
appreciate it. Thanks, you guys.
Yep.
Yeah, as a drama director for about 15 years, I really appreciate the grounding this gives and the background to deal with students and incidents. So, thank you.
Okay, I believe I'm up next with the high school graduation report. I believe you all have in front of you what our numbers look like for the year. Our graduation ceremony will be held on Sunday, May 29th at 2 p.m. in the Watertown Civic Arena. We are expecting 290 graduates for the 2022 school year. 27 of those graduates are early graduates, and of the 27, 19 of them have chosen to walk. We have two junior early grads, and both of those students have opted to walk. We have two graduates from last year's class of 2021 that completed their coursework, and they will also walk, and we have one homebound student that is opting not to walk. Always for interest is the non-grads. Currently, we have two senior non-grads. They are both ELL students, and one senior non-grad. We have 8 students that have discontinued their education this year, and 3 homeschool transfers of our senior classes. We did have some graduates in our night school program this year, and these would be our off-grade level grads during the school year. One student from the class of 2019 persevered and earned their diploma, and we hold a ceremony in night school for them and their families. It's a really nice event. We've had one student from the class of 2020, and then 3 students from the class of 2021. 2 of those graduated within our night school program. So, any questions that you might have on our numbers there?
Thank you, Mrs. McClemmons. If there's no other questions.
All right, thank you.
And congratulations to the
Thank you.
2022
I look
graduating
forward to
class.
working with you.
All right, next we'll move on to 5.5, which is a presentation of the preliminary 22-23 budget.
Thank you. The 22-23 preliminary budget was discussed in detail at the budget work session held on Monday, April 25th, in which board members and administration had the chance to thoroughly review, ask program-related questions, and discuss in level of detail. The board members have been provided a hard copy of the budget. A PDF version can be found on the district's website. The presented preliminary budget to operate the Watertown School District for the 22-23 school year is in the amount of $110,269,532, a decrease of 2.38%. 42.21% of the decrease is contributed to the capital outlay fund and the construction in progress of the $15 million high school renovation project. The general fund reflects a 3.38% increase in the amount of $988,419, with a total proposed budget of $30,221,895. Revenue supports are made up of 38% local and 50% state, followed by 6% in federal support and 6% in use of cash on hand in the transfer in from the capital outlay fund. Enrollment drives the operation in the general fund, as 80% of the generated revenue is based on the current funding formula for general education. During the 2022 legislative session, Governor Noem signed Senate Bill 59 into law, reflecting a proposed 6% increase in state aid funding for general ed. Taking into account the estimated fall enrollment of the district, the general fund operation is noted to receive 5.35% increase to revenue generation. Of the federal support accommodation in the general fund, 42% is made up of ESSER 3, or American Rescue Plan funding, in that $860,000 is identified to support learning loss identified positions. The FY23 budget in the general fund calls for the use of cash reserves in the amount of $1,094,420. The district is currently operating at a 32% fund balance. It is anticipated to spend down approximately $900,000 this year, and with the anticipation, the year-end fund balance at term of FY23 is estimated at 23%. The capital outlay fund makes up 9% of the budget and anticipates a decrease from FY22 of 42.21. This is directly related to the phasing of the $15 million high school renovation project. The total budget of $10,378,135 is made up of 81% of local tax support, with additional support from federal ESSER or CARES dollars in support of the HVAC boiler upgrades. Use of cash on hand is anticipated at $825,000, and the use of capital outlay certificates in the amount of $650,000. Please note that the tax levy for capital outlay is limited by growth, plus a 3% limitation that states the total amount of taxes collected from the capital outlay levy cannot increase annually more than 3% plus the growth factor. The estimated 2022 tax levy in 2023 for capital outlay is 2.840, up from the current 2.77. Major expenditure identifications include the completion of the high school renovation project, HVAC boiler project completion as offset through federal CARES dollars, the high school east parking lot, and district-wide projects of concrete replacement at several buildings, digital phone line completion, and a full security system upgrade. The budget also anticipates $3 million allocated to Phase 1 of the stadium complex planning, pending board approval. Areas of the capital outlay budget that are important to note: the district allocates 26% of the capital outlay budget to debt service payments, terms of that debt spanning from period ending 2027 with the most recent debt issuance in support of the high school renovation project through 2041. Another important identifier is that capital outlay allows for the transfer to general fund of up to 45% of taxable valuation. For the district, that would be an allowable transfer of $3.2 million. The FY23 budget anticipates a transfer to the general fund in the amount of $600,000. This is 50% of the regular budgeted $1.2 million. CARES allocations have allowed for the decrease to this allocation, saving funding to contribute to facility upgrades and needs. The 5-year capital outlay plan is also included within the preliminary budget, which identifies several projects and building improvements, along with other expenses accommodated by this fund over the next 5 years. Special education sees an increase of 6.45% and a total budget of $7,769,150. Local support makes up 48% of this budget, state support at 29%, and federal support at 12%. The preliminary budget projects that the revenue will be exceeded by the expenses in the amount of $747,000, with expenditures typically coming in at 90% of anticipated. Through transitional student needs, the estimated use of cash on hand will reflect closer to $350,000. The budget is also overallocated due to the transitioning of current positions and the call-out of additional supports. The preliminary budget also includes budgetary information related to the K-12 enterprise funds of nutrition services, concessions, driver's ed, and preschool services, as well as information related to the internal service funds of self-funded insurance and student financial aid programs. Lake Area Technical College makes up 47% of the district's budget at $35,308,227,000. Gets to be a lot of numbers. The main operation of Lake Area Tech College saw an increase of 18.24%. This increase is made up of $8.5 million allocated towards new facility construction. The diesel expansion is underway and the Archway Complex project was just approved. The budget notes a use of cash reserves in the amount of $6,039,672. The use of reserves is directly related to the building projects, and it is important to note that the capital campaign funds are expected from the Foundation for Naming Rights, which will decline the overall use of reserves. The preliminary budget also includes budgetary information related to the LATC enterprise funds of bookstore, nutrition services, and daycare. The budget hearing is set for July 11th, 2022 at 5 p.m., in which the 22-23 budget will be brought forth to the board, and the approved adoption will take place. Thank you, and I would be happy to answer any questions should you have any.
If there's no questions on the budget presentation, we'll move on to 5.6, which is first reading of 3 policies we have. First of all, the GBRJ policy on substitute personnel.
Thank you. This one is being reviewed, and the big change there is we are suggesting that we take the numbers associated with the hourly rate out of policy and add them to the July rates and fees at the annual meeting. A couple of things. One, there is more flexibility should we need to change that pay rate rather than a first and second reading of a policy. It could be brought to a board meeting and changed. And if we updated that, folks would have the pay reflection sooner. And the other thing is it is then reviewed annually versus having to bring up the policy each time we do it. So we are suggesting and advocating that you consider moving the pay rate out of the policy and into the rates and fees in July.
Okay, any comments on that from the board? Okay, if not, moving on to 5.6.2 and policy GCCAA.
Thank you. The current policy covers positions that either we do not have anymore on the K-12 side, or they are currently covered. For example, computer technicians are now covered under the classified agreement. So this policy was specific to those areas that were not covered previously, but now either are or the positions have been eliminated. So the request is to update this policy to cover employees at Lake Area Technical College. We technically do not negotiate for them. So in terms of that, this policy would then outline that the benefits that Lake Area follows under the certified and classified agreements include group insurance, SDRS, and retirement, which is the early retirement agreement, and then leaves as outlined within those agreements as well. So it's indicating that their benefits and their leaves follow what's negotiated, but they are not negotiating groups. So that is the update to GCCAA.
All right, thanks Heidi for that update. And then we have 5.6.3, which is policy GCCB.
Again, this is another cleanup one. It's adding a personal leave. It's leaves as outlined in the master contract for administrators and directors for both K-12, and then it would be Lake Area side as well. So it outlines that the leaves that are followed include what's negotiated under the contracts. It adds the personal leave for administrators that are on less than 12-month contracts to receive 3 days. And then it just some cleanup pieces to follow the language that's outlined within the master and certified agreements.
All right, thank you. So that is just a first reading of these policies. So in this time between now and next month, if the public or any personnel have any input on those, they can direct that to the Dr. Danielson and the admin office. Okay, moving on to the action items for 14-4. First of all, we have 6.1. We need to approve the bills.
I move approval of the bills.
Motion by Mr. Stein,
Second.
second by Mrs. Lohr. Any comments on any of the bills? Hearing none, all in favor of approval, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And next we'll move on to 6.2 and the personnel items. First of all, 6.2.1, the retirements.
Yes, we bring forth 3 classified retirements for you to consider.
Okay, can we have a motion on the retirements?
Move approval of the retirements as presented.
Motion by Mr. Stein
Second.
and a second by Mrs. Lohr. Comments on retirements? Hearing none, all in favor of approval, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And 6.2.2, the resignations.
Yes, we have a group of activities pending suitable replacement. We have classified, and then we have certified, including we have received a resignation from Cal Hislin, effective immediately and subject to the agreement as provided.
Okay, could we have a motion, please?
Move approval of the resignations.
Motion by Mr. Stein
Second.
and a second by Mrs. Lohr to approve the resignations as recommended. Any comments or questions? Hearing none, all in favor of approval, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And 6.2.3, contract recommendations and addendums.
Yes, the contract recommendations and addendums. We have, we're filling activity positions for next year, classified, certified. We also have everything that's happening in the summer, so we're including summer school, for general ed, for special ed, driver's education contracts, curriculum, and professional development.
Okay, could we have a motion to approve those, please?
I'll make a motion to approve those.
Motion by Mrs. Lohr. And a second by Mr. Stein to approve the contract recommendations and addendums. Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor of approval, say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. And 6.2.4, we have stipend requests.
Yes, we, during the school year, we have a limit of 100 credits that the school board can issue for the school year. And we have, for the summer session, we have 67 graduate credits being requested, and all but 3 of these are working on master's programs. And so I have that for you to consider.
Okay, could we have a motion, please?
I move approval of the stipend requests.
Motion by Mr. Stein
Second.
and a second by Mrs. Lohr. Any comments on the stipend requests? Hearing none, all in favor of approval, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And 6.2.5, the authority to hire.
Yes, with increased allocation of federal Title I dollars, we're able to ask for authority to hire of 1.5 FTEs for the 22-23 school year.
I'll make a motion to approve the authority to hire.
Motion by Mrs. Lohr. Second. And a second by Mr. Stein to approve the authority to hire. Any comments, questions? Hearing none, all in favor of approval, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now we'll move on to 6.3 and the property items. And first of all, we have 6.3.1, which is the authority to seek bids on Phase 1 of the athletic complex.
Thank you. The district requests the authorization to bid Phase 1 of the athletic complex, in which entails a full track reconstruction and shifting the track to the north. Further work includes reconstruction of the existing field to a turf playing surface, the relocation of the storage building, and moving of the existing bleachers. Phase 1 of the plan is estimated at $3.1 million and is budgeted out of fiscal year 22-23 capital outlay local dollars. The project will be estimated to begin in the spring with a completion plan of December 2022. We do have Jason Can with us from Co-op Architect to give us a presentation on the athletic complex master plan. Thanks, Jason.
And with Co-op Architecture. So we did go through a lot of this, so this will be just a very abbreviated version of kind of what we talked about at the April 19th meeting. But essentially, we just wanted to kind of touch base on what got us there and kind of what that conversation was. If you remember, we talked a good bit about the existing stadium and some of the issues there and the costs that are going to be coming up with that, and the costs that are going to be associated with the track at Allen Mitchell Field regardless. So, the discussion was that it's a very good time to kind of look at those facilities in general, how they fit together, where things are, because you're going to be doing projects at multiple locations, and what is the most cost-effective way for the district to kind of piece those together and what's best in the long run. So we did kind of that master plan conversation of what that is and kind of came up with the concepts for that. So I won't read through these. We did kind of talk about those in that previous meeting, but a lot of it just has to do with the facilities, the required upgrades at the facilities, kind of safety, kind of bring those facilities up to kind of typical standards for ESD schools and our peer schools around the state. So Allen Mitchell Field, this is the survey of the field. I threw these in really quickly to just kind of discuss where the site was, the existing utilities and things like that. So we have been doing some kind of background analysis of the site, how it fits here, what those existing utilities are, what they look like, everything around that field and existing space there. So we have done a survey. We've done soil borings. We've had our landscape architecture firm and civil engineers kind of out basically kind of doing a study of this area to, understand what the best layout is here for redoing the track, moving it, what fits here, all that kind of stuff. So that brings us into the design concept. I will talk through both phases of this. Tonight, we are only asking for approval to go out for bid for phase 1, and I'll kind of talk about that in a little bit more detail here shortly. So basically, you can see here, this is the existing location with a new track that is shifted a little bit to the north. You can see the outline essentially of the existing track there. It comes right up to that sidewalk along 3rd Avenue. Basically, we are intending to shift the track north a little bit to create some more space to allow the school district to create more of a complex there and have more flexibility going forward, depending on what decisions are made to put over here or just kind of how this complex comes together. Regardless of what happens here, the track and the base below it and the subgrade all needs to be redone anyway. So there really isn't a cost prohibitive item to moving the track a little bit. It makes sense to do it now more than any other time because you're going to be redoing that entire base regardless of whether it's staying in the same place or not. So the proposal for the phase 1 concept that we're working on right now proposes moving that track a little bit forward. We will actually be having some meetings with staff here going forward over the next couple weeks to kind of talk about what kind of goes into this from a track and field perspective, where the pits are and all that kind of stuff. So they're obviously shown here, but some of the things need to still kind of be worked out with the team as we kind of go forward here. The other major component of this obviously is the field itself. That is a synthetic turf field. Basically, once we move that, we're going to be rebuilding the field. We'd have to fix the crown, move the sprinklers, redo the drainage, all that kind of stuff. So if we're going to look at doing a turf field here, this is the time that makes sense to not duplicate on costs to make that work. So the proposal includes both of those. That's phase 1 kind of in a nutshell. It's basically a track and a synthetic turf field. Phase 2, which we kind of talked about in the meeting on the 19th, is very preliminary, and this is just more of an overall vision of what the site could be if it was used as the primary football field, soccer field location for varsity sports. Essentially, as referenced earlier, we have a field house and some grandstands and concessions and storage and all those kind of things kind of shown on here. That is still very much up in the air and needs to be discussed as we kind of move forward here. Basically, the crux of what we're asking today is to shift the field over, do the new track, and do the field. That gives us the flexibility here to kind of create a complex if that's the direction the school board wants to go, and kind of start those discussions on what is going to actually kind of make up the facilities and the functions that happen here. So all the stuff that you see with that, the field house, grandstands, the practice field, essentially the practice fields are primarily there already anyway. Those are just grass fields, but we wouldn't be putting any of that kind of stuff in. We wouldn't be putting the ticketing and concessions and the field house, any of that kind of stuff. That would come with phase 2 as that moves forward. So. This just kind of highlights a few of the things I just mentioned. Essentially the concept here of kind of shifting the field down there just makes it a more flexible space to provide better options in the future, depending on what decisions are made on what wants to go there or what happens there. None of that stuff is really being discussed, as part of phase 1 though. So this was the construction cost for the overall concept. What we showed for that phase 2. We would kind of estimate that right now to be right around an $8 million construction cost. That's for phase 1 and phase 2. Right now, phase 1, what we're including is demolishing the existing track, pushing that a little further north, kind of dealing with the water and the drainage on the north side of that where that overflow drain is, providing a turf football field, basically taking that existing bleacher that is located at the finish line right now, relocating it to the other side to be used as a visitors bleachers in the future. So we just reuse that same one and just relocate it over there. And then it would just be kind of minor things to get lighting ready or the transformer ready for any of the work that needs to go on around there. And basically just kind of setting it up to be a track facility right now, with the intent of some more happening around the complex with phase 2 in the future. So from a schedule standpoint, we are at the point that phase 1 does need to move forward if we have any hope of having a new track surface for next year. The schedule right now, we would basically tonight we are asking to go out for bids. That is not tying you into anything. That is basically just giving us permission to finish the documents, put those together, issue those out for public bid to get numbers back on that. Those bids would come in June. We would work with Mammoth Sports Construction, who has been hired by the school district as the construction manager for this project. They would take those bids, kind of go through those, vet the bids and go through and verify that everything is good with all of those. And we would present those bids at a special board meeting in June for approval or rejection or whatever at that point. So that is the point where we would know what the cost for phase 1 is, which is the track and the turf field, and whether it's, you want to move forward with it or not at that point. If it does move forward at that point, that's basically crunching the schedule about as much as we can. They would start probably in mid-July, a few weeks after that, and they would be working through the fall to get the track and the turf in by end of November, December timeframe.
Okay, thanks, Jason.
Welcome.
First of all, let's get a motion here concerning the seeking bids on phase 1.
I'll make the motion to seek bids on phase 1 of the athletic complex.
Motion by Mr. Iverson. And a second by Ms. Moulton to seek bids on phase 1 of the athletic complex. Is there any comments or questions on this part?
I just have a question. Will you get bids for just the track too? Or will it just be a bid to move it? Will we kind of have an idea if we decide to just do the tracks?
So if you mean doing the track in the existing location, we would have to do, it's possible. It's a pretty extensive process because.
Or just a bid in general to move the track, but just a track? I mean, will we have just a bid on that or an idea of what that would be, even moving it, but just the track?
Of just the track piece and not doing a turf field?
Yep.
We can have them, so we could do it one of two ways. We can either do that as an alternate in the process and try to bid it with a grass field, or we can, if the price comes in somewhere that's not feasible, we can look and have the low bidder, whoever that is, VE those items out and kind of go through that process once the bids are in. The one issue with that is it's doable. However, there will be some extra work that would happen if you do decide to do a grass field and move it to a turf field down the road. The drainage around the perimeter would be different. Generally, there's a concrete ring that we wouldn't do kind of around there that the turf gets attached to. We can prep for that if we think that's going to happen at some point. Include that, but we would also put in a sprinkler system then, which would be unnecessary at a future point, so we'd pull that out, and you'd crown the field differently and do some other things like that. So we would have a little bit of extra expenditure to do a grass field if we did decide to do a turf field in the future. But we can do it either way to get a cost for it.
Thank you.
Any
other comments on the project?
A couple of weeks ago, Don Stormwell did take me around the track, and I did not realize how poor a quality the track was in. And if you're a walker, you don't realize it. But what he explained is when you are running at the speed that these high-quality athletes are running at, the difference in the texture of the track and the, I don't know what you call it, but the level of the track. He said it really is not very good. And he says, I have relatives that live in other towns, and he says, I don't like what they have to say about our facilities here. And so we want to have good quality facilities for our athletes. And I don't know what phase 2 is going to look like, but I do know, I'm convinced we need to move on with phase 1, and we need to get phase 1 done, and we're going to keep working on phase 2, but we have to do phase 1 before we can start to work on phase 2. So that's why I'm in favor of moving on phase 1.
I guess I would say, as far as input I've had from the public on the entire project, phase 1 and phase 2, it's been almost mostly in favor of going ahead with phase 2 in some respect as we move forward. We obviously had somebody speak about wrestling this evening, and we know that gymnastics are also looking at space. And I don't think by approving phase 1 and looking at phase 2, we're excluding those 2 programs out. I think they're 2 separate issues right now, or 3 separate issues for that matter. But we have the opportunity, and we are working towards getting this problem that we have, because the old stadium definitely needs work, and so it's money we're gonna have to spend one way or another. So that's why I'm in favor of moving ahead with phase 1 also, and getting towards the phase 2 of the project.
Mr. Boyens would recall several years ago me sitting in his office, and I was on the other side of the fence, and I like old stuff. And I'm a history guy, and I like preserving older things, but the stadium has unfortunately run its course, and sometimes old buildings, old structures are not worth putting more money into, and I hate to see that happen. But we have to be good stewards of the district's money, and sometimes it's a good time to move and build something new that our students can be proud of and our athletes can be proud of, and I think this is the time to do so.
Okay, well, we do have a motion and a second to go ahead and approve seeking bids for phase 1 of the athletic complex. All in favor of granting that authority, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And thank you, Jason, for coming this evening.
Thank you.
Next, we'll move along to item 6.4 and some district product bids. First of all, 6.4.1, the bakery products.
Thank you. It is recommended to approve the bid received from Bimbo Bakeries USA for the supplying of bakery products for the 2022-23 school year.
Could we have a motion, please?
I move that we accept the bid from Bimco Bakeries.
Motion by Mr. Iverson.
Second.
And a second by Ms. Bolton to accept the bid from Bimbo Bakeries. Any comments? If not, all in favor of approval, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Then we have 6.4.2, the dairy products.
It is recommended to approve the alternative bid received from Prairie Farms Land O'Lakes for the supplying of dairy products for the 22-23 school year.
Could we have a motion, please?
I move approval of the bid from Prairie Farms / Land O'Lakes for dairy products as presented.
Motion by Ms. Moulton. Second by Mr. Iverson. Comments or questions? Hearing none, all in favor of approving Prairie Farms Land O'Lakes for dairy products for the 22-23 school year, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And 6.4.3, consider the food vendor award.
Thank you. It is recommended to approve the bid received from Reinhardt for the supplying of food distribution for the 22-23 school year. This recommendation comes from evaluation based on a rating system on services and online capabilities, product nutritional information and marketing, and fixed fee amounts.
Can we have a motion, please?
I move approval of the food vendor award from Reinhardt.
Motion by Ms. Moulton,
Second?
second by Mr. Iverson. Comments or questions on that? Hearing none, all in favor of approval, say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right, now we move to 6.5, and we have the second reading on some policies. First of all, 6.5.1 DKC.
Yes, we had no changes from last month's first reading, no comments on that, so we're recommending your approval of the incidental accounts.
I'll make a motion to approve the incidental accounts.
Second?
Motion by Mrs. Lauren, a second by Mr. Stein to approve the changes to policy DKC. Any comments? Hearing none, all in favor of approval, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And 6.5.2 EICA.
Same thing, no changes nor comments since the first reading, so recommend approval of the update to EICA.
Okay, could we have a motion, please?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Stein,
Second.
second by Mrs. Lohr to approve the changes to EICA. Any comments? Hearing none, all in favor of approval, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And 6.5.3 KCAA.
Broken record here, but no changes to that nor comments on KCAA, so again, recommend approval.
So moved?
Motion by Mr. Iverson. And a second by Ms. Bolton to approve the changes to policy KCAA. Comments or questions? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. And next, we have a few South Dakota High School Activities Association considerations we need to do. First of all, we've got, consider the Division II representative for the SDHSAA. You want to speak to that, or should I just? Right now, on the ballot, we have our own Dr. Jeff Danielson as the only candidate, so I guess we can make a motion if we want to send our ballot in with his name checked.
Write-ins are possible as well.
I'll make that a motion to approve proudly.
Second.
Okay, first I have a motion by Mr. Stein, and I did hear a second from Mrs. Lohr first, and I'll hope there's not any more comments that need to be made right now. So, good. I'm happy to see that we will have a local representative on the High School Activities Association again. So, all in favor of casting that vote for Dr. Danielson, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And now we have 7 different amendments coming from the High School Activities Association. Do you want to just take each one?
Yep, we're going to need to vote on each one, but our recommendation is a yes vote on them, but I will just run down each one individually, and if you had comments or questions, and then you can make your motion. The first 6 are mainly cleanup of language in the Constitution. The first one just changing who the representatives are based off of current practice. So recommend a yes vote.
Okay, could we have a motion, please?
I move approval of amendment number 1.
Motion by Ms. Moulton. Second. Second by Mr. Iverson to vote yes on Amendment 1. Comments? Hearing none, all in favor of approval, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Now Amendment 2.
That is by board action, the Activity Association Board suspended membership dues and fees, so reflecting that in language for fiscal year, started fiscal year 22, so this school year going forward. So recommend yes.
Okay, could we have a motion on Amendment 2?
I'll make a motion to approve Amendment 2.
Motion by Mrs. Lohr. Second by Ms. Moulton to cast the yes on Amendment 2. Comments? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries, and now Amendment 3.
Amendment 3 strikes the language in reference to No Child Left Behind, which is not our current federal education law or bill, so striking that, again, recommend yes.
Do we have a motion on Amendment 3?
I move approval with a yes vote.
Motion by Mr. Stein. Second by Mr. Iverson. Comments? Hearing none, all in favor of casting yes on Amendment 3, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Amendment 4.
Amendment 4 talks about the appeals process and notes that it's either the superintendent or the Board of Ed who levels the appeal and then changes the appeal committee to members of the High School Activities Association Board of Directors versus people who are not associated with the board. Recommend yes.
Could we have a motion, please?
I will make a motion.
I move approval of amendment number 4 with a yes.
Motion by Ms. Moulton. Second by Mr. Iverson. Comments? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Amendment 5.
This is in reference to the legislation passed in 2021 relative to alternative instruction students and clarifies their eligibility for activities. So recommend yes.
Could we have a motion, please?
Move approval with a yes vote.
Motion by Mr. Stein.
Second.
Second by Mrs. Lohr. Comments? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Amendment 6.
This is in reference to 7th and 8th grade students who participate at the high school level and clarifies their scholastic standards with the codified law 1327-3 and the transcripts 1336-7. Recommend yes.
Okay, motion, please.
Move approval with a yes vote.
Motion by Mr. Stein. Second by Mr. Iverson. Comments? Hearing none, all in favor of casting yes on Amendment 6, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And finally, Amendment 7.
This would add a multiplier for free and reduced lunch percentages to the enrollment count for activities participation. This was submitted by the Native American Advisory Council and the High School Activity Association staff. For the current AA schools, it would have no impact whatsoever. So from a Watertown perspective, it would not impact our AA competition at this point to shift around. Where it would primarily be seen is in some of our larger Native American schools that might be pushing the AA threshold for their enrollment, would allow them to stay in Class A. And then I think where most of your shuffling will be is in what I think your 9-man football classifications, but also some of those schools that are on the bubble of A and B each count, which is every 2 years. It would kind of stabilize their enrollment numbers. We recommend a yes vote on this change. North Dakota and Minnesota also have a similar multiplier in their enrollment counts, so similar states around us have adopted this as well.
Okay, could we have a motion, please?
I will make a motion to approve Amendment 7 with a yes.
Motion by Mrs. Lohr and a second by Mr. Iverson. Comments? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And 6.8, we need to set the annual budget hearing date as July 11th, 2022 at 5 p.m. Could we have a motion, please?
I move approval of setting the budget date for July 11th at 5 p.m.
Motion by Ms. Moulton. Second by Mr. Iverson. Any comments or questions on that? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And under 6.9, our student enrollment requests.
Thank you. We have no open enrollments for you this evening. And then 6.9.2, 132810, 1, 132810 requests that we are recommending for your approval.
Motion, please.
I'll make a motion to approve the 132810.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Lohr and second by Mr. Stein to approve the 132810. Comments? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And we move to item 7 on the agenda and communications.
Yes, just one more reminder to the public about the retirement celebration, Wednesday, May 18th, 3:45 to 5 p.m. in the high school lunchroom, and that is a little bit of a change this year, and that is an open house format, so you can come celebrate with our retirees, including the public is invited to that. A reminder that at our last meeting, we did change the end of the school year from the 25th to Thursday, May 26th, to reflect the last snow day. So Wednesday, the 25th, would be a full day with a 12:30 dismissal on Thursday, May 26th. And then WHS graduation on Sunday, May 29th, 2 p.m., as Mrs. McClemmons pointed out during her proposal. So thanks once again to our staff. Last week was Teacher Staff Appreciation Week. We did celebrate from the district level with some donuts on Wednesday. Help me out. Do not, we had a fun, catchy little slogan that sounded like, do not underestimate how important you are to the district, or something with donuts. So I'm sure I did a nice job with that. But we do appreciate, we've had 2 years of kind of all the COVID things, although it's kind of winding itself down in terms of any of the, maybe the inconveniences that we had to start here back in the fall of 2020. But not to undervalue whatsoever the contributions that our staff have made, and just I've had many had the opportunity to have conversations and been shown the district appreciation that our community has, our businesses, that we've been in session and people have been able to go to work. And then our students have gotten a much better educational experience by being here with our educators in the classroom and learning each and every day. So a big thank you to our staff for all they've done, in particular these last 2 years. So, and thank you to the board for your support of us as we've gone through it.
Okay, thank you. Item 7.2, is there any board reports to the superintendent this evening?
Actually, I just want to make a couple comments, jump back to the training rules. I do want to encourage the board to take some time to have a conversation about the training rules. I really appreciated Mr. Boyan's comments about second chances. While there's a lot of positives to be had with the current policy, I'm also a firm believer in second chances. I've been blessed with second chances in my life, and had I not had those, I wouldn't have had some of the most valuable learning lessons in my entire life too. So maybe there's some sort of a happy medium, and it's just going to require another conversation. So I'd like to encourage the board to have that, please.
I agree with you. Stuart?
On a different topic, I just want to congratulate Northeast Tech on fabulous 50 years celebration this weekend. The student presentations and the items they made were just very outstanding.
All right. With that, it is time for adjournment. Could we have a motion?
I move we adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Moulton, second by Mr. Iverson. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thanks for coming, everybody.